close to 7,000.
I think you need to do more research and then let us know.
10 tips to help you master the art of talking to ChatGPT. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about a topic that has become increasingly relevant in our technology-driven world. We all saw how our lives changed when ChatGPT came into the picture last year at the end of November. I personally got really excited and then had everyone at our digital transformation startup create an account and do some queries. The results we found were astounding. But before we get into the tip number one, I want us to be on the same page with respect to what is ChatGPT.
ChatGPT stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. The generative means that it can generate new text by looking at old text. The pre-trained essentially means that it has already been trained on large corpus of data that exists like books and websites. Transformer essentially is the architecture which was pioneered by actually people at Google. I think there were 8 writers and the paper is called Attention is All You Need, and that architecture essentially made it scalable for us to go from GPT-1 to GPT-4 and produce human-like conversations. So for all practical purposes, we can just call them large language models.
Did someone say Turing test complete? Well, I don't think ChatGPT's Turing test complete, but a better question to ask is Turing test still the most relevant test for testing artificial intelligence?
Hash earlier explained to me what Turing test is, that if there's a curtain and across that curtain you're unable to tell if you're speaking to a machine or a real human, if a machine can be smarter than a human.
With the rise of AI and natural language processing, it's important to understand how to interact with these technologies effectively. Remember when Google search came out? And the ability to search the whole wide internet using keywords changed the way we shop, the way we learn, travel, eat, code, and hire, and so much more. So we've put together a list of 10 tips to help you master the art of talking to ChatGPT.
So what is your tip number one?
Here are the 10 tips for talking effectively with ChatGPT. The number one tip I have for you is define the audience. Asking the right questions from ChatGPT by telling it who the answer is for. Is it for a 14-year-old? Is it for a 7-year-old? Is it for a tech executive? Is it for a resident nurse? By doing that, this helps the ChatGPT model to give you a style and vocabulary that is in line with the persona that you specify. So in our case, our audience is YouTube. The query that I'm running is how to make a video about talking effectively with ChatGPT. So we will modify our question, which was how to make a YouTube video about talking effectively with ChatGPT. And specifically for our case, we can say for 20 to 50-year-old, because that's what the audience of my channel is. So by specifying who the answer is for, you would get much better answers.
All right, so that's your tip number one. What's your tip number two?
Specify the output. What does that mean? Well, to mention what kind of output are you looking for? Are you looking for a script? Are you looking for a letter? Are you looking for a poem? Tip number 2 for us is to mention in the question if we need a script for the video, or if you need a long form blog, or if you need this to be a letter. In short, what sort of output are you looking for from ChatGPT? So back to our example, instead of asking how to make a YouTube video about talking effectively with ChatGPT for 20 to 50-year-old, let's modify the question to say you need a script, an outline, voiceover, tag, etc. Train the model. Our next tip is to help ChatGPT learn your writing style by training the model with text. You can provide it with your emails, you can provide it with your Word documents, you can provide it with lists of things, a whole lot of stuff. So it can understand text and then give you answers from that text. It can also help you write similar stuff from that style. Be clear and concise in your communication. ChatGPT responds best to direct and specific questions. Make sure your question is clear and specific so that it can understand exactly what you're asking. Avoid using vague or ambiguous language.
Okay.
Tip number 5.
Ask ask for clarification. Akash, explain to us, what does that mean? Like, if you have to ask for clarification, then does it not defeat the purpose of ChatGPT?
Yes and no. What I would like to recommend is start with your initial topic. So for
I think
example,
what you're trying to say is don't be afraid to ask the clarification if you don't understand the response you receive from ChatGPT.
Yes.
You have to dig deeper, ask follow-up questions.
paraphrase yourself. Try different phrasing if you're not getting the response you're looking for. ChatGPT may interpret your questions differently based on the wording you use. We saw how using create a video and create a script gave us different results. So when you don't get an expected response, try paraphrasing yourself. Next, stay on topic. ChatGPT is designed to respond to specific questions, so it's important to keep your questions relevant. When you start a session with ChatGPT, it knows what you're talking about and it can give contextual answers, but stay on topic. Provide context when necessary. ChatGPT may not have the information it needs to give you an accurate response. For example, in my conversation about creating the video, I have several sections with tips. I asked them for 50-year-olds, 14-year-old. It's best to provide context when returning to a previous section of the conversation. Loop back. I think this is the most important tip which I don't see a lot of people using. A loopback essentially is that you use the generated content from the model and feed a part of it back to it along with the action that you want to perform. So for example, if you want to create 10 tips to talk effectively with ChatGPT, once you've done that, loop that back to it and ask it, make a variation of it in the style for tech executives.
Basically like iterate.
Yes.
But reference something that they may have generated.
Exactly.
Before we go to the last tip, let's go ahead and understand what ChatGPT-4 can offer for us.
GPT-4 is advanced version. It can handle more tokens. It's multimodal, so it can also handle images, although that functionality is not yet exposed to public or even developers.
So can you tell me, like I'm a 10-year-old?
Yes. So we already know what ChatGPT is, right? It takes text prompts and it outputs text prompts. Multimodal means it can now take image as prompts.
So how do I do that? Do I just copy paste in that text bar where I used to type a question? Now I just drag and drop a picture?
Well, that's an interesting question because they haven't yet exposed a use case as such. They gave a Discord demo of it.
What are some of the other things that we can do using GPT-4?
Well, we can compare GPT 3.5 to GPT-4, or we can just, use GPT-4 now that we have the premium membership. So we upgraded to ChatGPT Plus, and I've run some tests. You can see I have some old conversations here, like how to talk to AI.
So what would you like our subscribers to know about GPT-4? One is that you could do multimodal, which seems that it means that not just text, but you could also have images that it can take input from. So let's say for disabled people, for people who are unable to see an image, it could describe that image, I guess. That's one advantage.
Yes, that's interesting. And I think you're not aware of it, but that's the only public use case available right now wherein you can test drive this GPT-4 multimodal capability. It's an application called Be My Eyes. It's a volunteer application for people with limited or impaired vision, and it connects their phone's camera to volunteers so that they can describe stuff, and they'll of course use ChatGPT or GPT 4.0 eventually to transcribe an image to someone who may not.
So why should I care about GPT-4?
If you cared about GPT 3.5, GPT-4 is just GPT 3.5 on steroids.
So is it that much better, or is it like iPhone 13 to 14 that there's not much difference?
No, I'll compare it to Apple moving to M2.
So M1 versus M2?
No, just their own version, just moving from Intel-based processors to
M series processors.
I think then the difference is huge. What about others who have not subscribed to the Plus version? Like one of my friends, she got an invite for GPT-4 that she could use it like by invitation. Is that something that you got as well? Did everybody get that?
Yeah, there is a wait list for dev access right now, but there is the ChatGPT Plus plan wherein you pay $20 per month and you get priority access, and you don't get that busy screen. So you can run it on the legacy GPT 3.5.
But that happened sometime in the middle when I was getting that it's busy, and that too specifically in other countries. In the US, I mean, usually whenever I want it, I can use it. So why pay an extra $20?
Yeah, I mean, right now, again, if you want to use GPT-4, benchmark it and see, I would see a use case. But more importantly, ChatGPT Plus does not get you the APIs. The APIs are still charged, and the prices are pretty cheap. So for example, if you wanted to write a 50-page book, that'll cost you about $3.50 for all the tokens. And finally, tip number 10, the most important one: have fun. ChatGPT is a great tool for learning and exploring new ideas, for being creative. So don't be afraid to experiment and see what it's capable of.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.